Broadcasting from deep behind enemy lines in the occupied territory of the Socialist Republic of California. Your host, former California State Assemblyman and Governor candidate, Tim Donnelly.
Welcome to our first edition of Fearless Friday, where we, at the Tim Donnelly Show, we're not afraid to talk about anything. You know, the headlines are just rife with bizarre stories today. Is California going to the rats? Bethany, did I get that right?
Tim, you totally have that right, because we actually just caught a rat 2 days ago.
And you had to set a trap. You thought you had mice and you caught a rat.
Yes, a big one.
Well, evidently, the drought, I guess we can thank Jerry Brown. Once again, every other day, Jerry Brown's legacy is changing. Now it's going to be California overwhelmed by rats because they need at least an ounce of water a day to survive, and the water's drying up, and the water tables are drying up, and the water's going deeper and deeper and deeper, and we haven't had anywhere near the precipitation that we ordinarily would have, even in a dry year. And this is causing rats to go inside. If you have any holes in your house, you better plug them. That's all I have to say. And secure your borders around your house. Yes, I did just tie rats to borders. But that's not the only thing. There's I want to know if there is an epidemic in this country of hatred for the American flag. I don't know. Bethany, did you see that story over that came over the wire? I think it was on Fox about a bunch of frat boys that were having a spring formal down in Florida. And there were some veterans who were actually there for their own retreat. And these frat boys got drunk and then decided that it was acceptable to urinate on the American flag and harass and disrespect these veterans. Did you hear that story?
I did, Tim. That's disgusting, actually.
I mean, well, in the 5 o'clock hour, we're going to talk to a couple of college kids that can give us the other side of the story or give us some insight into this. And we're actually going to talk to some that are at UCI, where there was a flag incident there. Not quite the same thing, but certainly just really disconcerting to see. You know, and I'm not one of these people that says we should pass a law, because I don't think we need more laws. But there's something rotten deep within our culture that people feel that it's okay to disrespect those, not just the flag, but the veterans, the individuals who have suffered greatly in order to provide the freedom for them to be idiots. I was not meaning to segue to the Obama White House with that, but here it is. You heard in the news at the top of the hour that White House spokesman Josh Earnest was asked to comment on the failure to disclose massive donations, $2.3 million in donations. Now, let me set this up. In California, there was some money that came in from out of state, and it sent the leftists, the Marxist progressives, it made them apoplectic because they couldn't figure out who had put the money out, and it had gone through a couple of different shell corporations or organizations in order to hide the actual source of the money. And this stuff happens in politics all the time on both sides. That's what happens when you have so much money involved. But in this case, This has to do with Bill and Hillary Clinton, has to do with $2.3 million that came from a one source, essentially, which is a uranium company, Uranium One, out of Russia, that wants to have contracts with the U.S. So it's very significant, and they hid it. They covered it up. And an ABC reporter, Jonathan Carl, was going after the press secretary for Obama the way that Sam Donaldson used to go after President Reagan. I mean, he was a pit bull. You got to hear this footage. Bethany, could you roll this?
We'll come back to that at some point, but we can just do a quick follow-up on the other subject from yesterday, the issue of the donations to the Clinton Foundation. We now know that there were some $2 million in donations that came essentially from Uranium One to the Clinton Foundation that were not disclosed at the time. Can you acknowledge that at least that did not meet up to that were expected based on the memorandum of understanding between Hillary Clinton and the president?
Again, in terms of compliance with the memorandum of understanding, I'd refer you to the State Department or to Secretary Clinton's team, who I'm sure would be happy to talk to you about this.
But you made it clear at the time that the donations weren't going to be made public. I mean, this was not some promise that Hillary Clinton made off to the side. This was an agreement that she had with the White House, with the president. So I'm just saying, we now know $2 million in donations from, essentially from Uranium One, while this transaction, even aside from the approval of their transaction, the fact that you had such a large group of donations coming in that were not disclosed, that doesn't concern the White House at all? That lived up to the standards that were set by the president. Forget Hillary Clinton, but by the president.
I think what is clear is, and this is noted in the New York Times story today, is that there is no proof whatsoever, no evidence to indicate that donations had any impact on this particular policy decision. There's
no about the fact that donations weren't publicly disclosed.
But I think the point is that I've been in a position where there have been other, to put it mildly, conservative authors that have written books based on what they purport to be serious allegations against the President of the United States. And I'm often in the position of responding to those incidents and trying to defend the President from accusations that are not rooted or accompanied by any evidence. My point is that right now that's what's happening to Secretary Clinton, and there is a spokesperson that Secretary Clinton has hired that can answer these questions.
Okay, but I'm not asking whether or not Secretary Clinton sold, favors from the State Department. I'm just asking you about whether or not these donations should have been disclosed.
Right.
I'm asking about disclosure.
And
I'm not suggesting that.
Right. And that is something that Secretary Clinton's team can talk to you about. Is how they handled this particular incident.
It's really, really sad to hear the White House spokesman begin to bring politics into something that is a serious matter. It doesn't matter whether we were talking about Hillary Clinton or whether we were talking about Jeb Bush. I would still want the answers. Everyone deserves the answers when someone wants to be the president of the United States and they want to hide massive donations from foreign governments with whom there is business conducted, and you're in a position to affect that. It doesn't matter whether you affected it or not. It matters that you were able to affect it and you didn't have the judgment to turn down the donation. As a matter of fact, it's very likely the Clintons solicited the donation. And this is not going to be the end of this, because for some reason, the media press corps is sinking their teeth into Hillary Clinton in a way they never would have done to Bill Clinton, in a way that they generally do to Republicans, but it's their job. They should do this. They're supposed to be a watchdog. It's extraordinary. They haven't done any of this to President Obama, but and I'm just going to throw my own theory out there. I've heard other theories, but mine is really simple. I think it's a likability factor. Bill Clinton, whether you like his politics or not, is a likable guy. He comes on our show all the time and it makes Bethany laugh. But, Hillary's just not, she's just not likable. I mean, even in public, when you have 500 million people watching you at a press conference, you got to lighten up. You got to smile a little bit. You've got to relax. And I don't think she knows how to do that. She may be really smart on policy. Maybe. I don't know. I don't agree with a lot of her policies, but she's just not. I don't think she should be running for political office. That's my opinion. Hey, we have got a great show ahead. More and more parents are opting out. So if Common Core is an issue for you, you don't want to touch that dial. We are going to talk to an activist who has been doing something about it. We've also got Assemblywoman Melissa Melendez coming up later on in the show, talking about this idiotic Proposition 47 and her bill to fix it. And then in the final hour, we're going to get to the bottom of this flag, this disrespect for our flag, and get some answers on what's going on our college campuses. But if you want to be involved in the show, if you want to weigh in, you can call in any time on any topic, 323-746-TALK, 323-746-8255. I'm not saying we'll have you on the air on any topic, but you can call in on any of the topics we have on the Tim Donnelly Show. Heard on the Radio Free California Network. More coming up after the break. Stay tuned.
Don't you think it's about time you treat yourself or someone you love to something very special? Well, Ozell Jewelers, the finest jewelry store in the high desert, is known throughout the high desert for having the largest variety of fine-looking jewelry and gifts for every special occasion. Ozell custom designs and manufactures their own jewelry, so you'll be able to find exclusive, one-of-a-kind, stunning styles you won't find anywhere else in Southern California. If you're looking for fine jewelry at unbeatable prices, Ozell Jewelers is the place to go. Show appreciation to that special person in your life with something special to cherish forever. Ozell Jewelers, voted best jewelers in the high desert by the Daily Press regularly for years. Ozell Jewelers has been putting smiles on high desert faces for over 30 years. Ozell Jewelers in Rancho Cucamonga, Palm Desert, and Amargosa Road by Red Lobster in Victorville. Ozell Jewelers.
Hey, if you like what you've been hearing on the Tim Donnelly Show, then support it. If you own a business, we have a tremendous audience, not only on air, but also online. And we've got a great social media presence, and you can participate in all of that by simply picking up the phone and calling 760-244-4444. That's the office line to Bethany, who can schedule you to come in and record your own commercial, or you can send us a script and I'll read it. Whatever you do, you got to act now, because your future customers are my loyal listeners. Well, we successfully made it through our first week. Surprise, surprise. It's, we had a bunch of technical glitches in the beginning, and we've worked through most of them, not all of them. And look, if you've been trying to reach the show, be patient. I do recommend Facebook, Twitter, email. I don't often give those out, but it's just at Tim Donnelly Show on Twitter. And but this hour, or this segment, we're going to call We Get Mail. Remember that movie? It was probably before your time, Bethany. But I don't even know how to preface this, because a lot of this is hate mail. And hate is a very strong word. But for some reason, with some people, and it seems to be almost a disease on the left. I don't call it liberals because I don't believe that a classic liberal actually wants to live and let live, whereas a leftist wants to control you. And they want to use the government as the tool to control their neighbors. But we got this message. I won't read the name, but I just want to put you on notice that if you write to the Tim Donnelly Show, you give us permission because you have released it into our care to read it on air, especially when you say stupid things. I'm not saying that this is a stupid email. I think it's insightful. But I do want to give out the phone number because we also, if you're too lazy to write or you are too drunk to write, we are going to open up the tipsy line so that you can tell us how you really feel. And that number is 760-933-8460. And that will be up at some point on timdonnellyshow.com, where we pretty much drive everything from the show. And, you know, if you do want to connect with us on Facebook and Twitter, you can go to timdonnellyshow.com, and down below the header, I believe, or up at the top, I forget where it is, you just click on Facebook and Twitter, you know, the little links, and it'll take you right to our page. But here's the letter that came in overnight. It says, "Please stop the hate," with a big exclamation point. "While you and your counterparts go to great lengths to find anything possible wrong with Hillary Clinton, you never have the courage to say just what the heck it is that you stand for." I'm trying to emphasize because there's capitals here and capitals there, and then there's other things in full caps, like the "you" stand for. "You're a bunch of backstabbing cowards. Please take me off your list of conservatives who might listen to your point of view. I did listen, and I was appalled. You might know how to brainwash the ignorant people, but anyone with intelligence can see you're ranting for what it is. Fear. Goodbye." And after I stopped laughing, I wrote back and said, I'm sorry, but I don't have any counterparts. I simply speak the truth as I see it. Did you happen to catch my segment on how Hillary and Jeb Bush are just two sides of the same coin? They make up the establishment party, and I think they should run on the same ticket. Why is telling the truth hate in your eyes? No one put a gun to your head. If you don't agree with me, you possess the power to simply turn it off or change the station. That's called freedom of choice. I thought you guys on the left were for freedom of choice. But if freedom is hateful in your mind, if truth is such a threat to your ideology, you're free to move on. But calling me names doesn't advance your cause, whatever it is, because you don't make your cause clear, nor does it persuade me. I started my own radio show on which I enjoy the right of free speech for 3 hours a day. If you did the same, I wouldn't call you a hater. I'd simply say we disagreed. I spent almost 20 minutes today exposing a Republican congressman who threatened a constituent. Did you happen to catch that segment? Probably not. You're probably too busy painting me into an ideological box. You see, that's what happens when you put yourself out there. And I will read another letter when we get back that's actually a positive one. But you need to sit. Don't touch that dial. Now, when I say that, I don't have a gun to your head. It's your choice. Heck, you might even call in and rant a little bit on your own. 323-746-TALK. More on the Tim Donnelly Show coming up. Friday night, you know what that means. You probably want to take your significant other to dinner, and what better place to do it than in my hometown at the Grill at the Antlers Inn. There is no better place to eat, in my opinion, on the mountain, period. It is fantastic food, fresh food. The proprietor takes it personally, drives and picks up the food himself, picks it himself. When you have somebody that involved in a business, you just can't even talk about how good it is. Friday night, you will need to call and make a reservation unless you want to wait. And then you can just sit there at the bar and not be at a table. We want you at a table. So call 909-336-2600. Make a reservation. And when you do, make sure you mention you heard it on the Tim Donnelly Show. Hey, I've been teasing this story a little bit since yesterday, that there is a movement afoot, and you've got to have your head in the sand or be buried under a rock not to have heard about Common Core by now. And there's a huge undercurrent of opposition, and it's starting to get attention. It was in the local paper, written by the Associated Press, where they're tracking it all over the country. And I am going to bring on the line a friend of mine who is an activist, but previously was just like you, maybe, an ordinary citizen who had never done anything like this. But I would like to introduce you to my friend Dominica. Dominica, welcome to the Tim Donnelly Show.
Hey, Tim, thanks for having me on. This is exciting.
Yeah.
Congratulations about your radio show.
Well, thank you very much. You and a number of your friends were protesting, or no, that's not the right word. You were informing people that they have a choice to opt out of the Common Core state standards testing. And you were out there at a school yesterday, and were you out there this morning?
Not this morning, but we did have others out there, yes, all over the place.
Now, how did that go? What was the response?
It's really exciting because I've been working on this for about a year and a half now, and actually these are people you introduced me to, so it really has come full circle. And back then, people just didn't even know what Common Core was. And to go out there, I was out on the sidewalk passing out information to parents when they didn't even know what Common Core was a year ago.
And what was the reaction then?
Now, then it was, some mixed reaction. Some were like, why, everybody wants to be supportive of their schools. So do I. We love our schools. We love our teachers. And at first they don't really understand. We're not doing something against the school. We want to help our schools. We want to help them to keep local control. So it's until you really understand what it's about, first impression, and they're hearing the rhetoric, which is just these empty buzzwords that's being fed through the chain from top down to the school administrators. And, they might buy into that. But then there's those that do get it, and now it's amazing. We were standing out there earlier this week with our opt-out signs, and the parents are waving and they're honking, and it's great because you don't even have to explain it. They're just like, give me a form.
Wow.
They get it.
Yeah. I mean, what you were referring to is the teachers union and the school administration, especially in areas where there's been any resistance, they have rolled out these, what they call Common Core town halls. I attended one in Orange County at the Board of Education. I believe you were there. Many members of your group were there listening. I have never heard such empty propaganda since I can't even think when. I don't want to make references to, well, anyway, all I'm going to say is I was actually there and taking notes and looking to hear their side, and all I heard was them be derisive of anyone who could think for themselves, because they said, we're really, really smart, and we did this, and we're educators, and we have all these degrees, and you guys are a bunch of troglodytes. Who are you to even be here? And that was it. There were no facts except from the anti-Common Core side, where at the one event, remember Sandra, what's her last name?
Sandra Stotsky.
Stotsky. Yeah, she laid out in 5 minutes with clarity that these are not true standards, and she talked to a number of academics about them, and she was actually on the board that was, supposed to approve them and set them, and she resigned in protest. So, what was the reaction this morning from people? Did they have any comments?
Well, they're thanking us. They're thanking us for the opt-out forms, and they're ready to opt out, and they don't feel alone anymore, because I think another message that's been put out there by the schools is, oh, really, you're the only one. And we know for a fact that's not true. So by networking, you got to talk to other people, and then they'll say, hey, I opted out too. Like, well, that's interesting. When I opted out, they told me I was the first one at the school, and they're telling everybody they're the first one. So unless we get together and talk to each other, we're not getting the full story, are we?
Well,
and, they see us out there, and we know we're not the only ones, because it's happening all across the nation. The latest from New York is an estimate of 190,000 students.
Wow.
And it's growing by the day. We've got a high school in Seattle, where they had 100% of their junior class opted out.
Wow.
100%. And in high school, they only test 11th grade for the end of the year high stakes assessments. We're talking about the Smarter Balance test. 100% opt out.
That's extraordinary.
You don't need it to graduate, and why do they need to take this? They understand. We have the Ed Code says. We have our California Education Code. I've learned a lot as I've gotten into this whole battle. I didn't know what an Ed Code was a year and a half ago, but now I have them memorized. And it says that a parent has a right to opt out their child. So they really can't stop us. We have a right to do this. It has nothing to do with the material they're being graded on.
I guess as a woman, you are not voting for Hillary Clinton, because Hillary Clinton said, even though you're supposed to vote for her because you're a woman, she said that parents have no role in education, and that it belongs in the hands of the education professionals.
Right. Yeah, and that's where we have a little difference of opinion. I think there might be a few other parents out there that might agree with me that parents should have a little bit more to say, and that's where we got to keep the control local. So, they'll get into this debate, the Common Core standards. Well, what don't you like about the standards? You know what? It doesn't matter what I like or what I don't like, because it has a copyright. So even if I liked all of it today, they could change it. They could do anything they want with it, and who am I going to complain to? Because my local school board won't have control. This thing has a copyright, and it's owned by the National Governors Association and the Council of Chief State School Officers. Am I going to go complain to them?
Yeah, you're not going to get a sympathetic ear. I can tell you right now, among the elitists. And when I ran for governor, accidentally or was forced to spend a lot of time around them, especially like with the Republican Governors Association. I was shocked at the attitude that the Republican Governors Association had toward Common Core. They said that anybody who was against Common Core was basically they gave an example that was so disrespectful. They said it's probably like a Tea Party troglodyte that doesn't understand. And so what you need to do is challenge their facts, criticize them, make them feel stupid, and then they'll go away. And give an example.
Right. But the truth is, we have in Washington State, we have the Democratic Central Committee wrote a resolution against Common Core.
Exactly.
So why is that happening? You know, they're painting us as this extremist group, but yet there's a multitude of crosses party lines. There's many teachers who object to it because they don't want to be graded on just this test that's really not a fair test, and it's testing things that are not even academic. We're entering, we've always had these tests. We had the STAR test before, but it's a whole new era. We lost the FERPA, which was the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. They made an amendment to that says they can give information to third parties now. Private companies can have access to that data they're collecting on your students.
Dominica, can you hold over for one more segment?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. Hey, if you have a question about Common Core or a comment and you'd like to weigh in to this discussion, 323-746-TALK, 323-746-8255. We will dig into this issue of Common Core and opting out when we get back after the break on the Tim Donnelly Show.
Don't you think it's about time you treat yourself or someone you love to something very special? Well, Ozell Jewelers, the finest jewelry store in the high desert, is known throughout the high desert for having the largest variety of fine-looking jewelry and gifts for every special occasion. Ozell custom designs and manufactures their own jewelry, so you'll be able to find exclusive, one-of-a-kind, stunning styles you won't find anywhere else in Southern California. If you're looking for fine jewelry at unbeatable prices, Ozell Jewelers is the place to go. Show appreciation to that special person in your life with something special to cherish forever. Ozell Jewelers, voted best jewelers in the high desert by the Daily Press regularly for years. Ozell Jewelers has been putting smiles on high desert faces for over 30 years. Ozell Jewelers in Rancho Cucamonga, Palm Desert, and Amargosa Road by Red Lobster in Victorville. Ozell Jewelers.
Welcome back to Fearless Friday on the Tim Donnelly Show, and we are talking about the government control of our children's education, in particular with this Common Core state standards testing. And I have a parent who is also a friend of mine and an activist, Dominica, who is on the line. Dominica, before the break, we were talking about sort of the reaction. A lot of people felt like they were alone. But you were alone when you started this. I mean, how did you get involved? How did you go from being, a mom and, a wife and someone who, has been just trying to mind her own business to somebody who has made this your business?
Well, when I first heard about it, my first reaction was denial because, we have some of the best schools around where I live, and I have 4 children. The first 3 have graduated, and we've had nothing but a positive experience. So I was like, they're not going to do that at my school. And then I found out a week later that they were retesting my youngest daughter, Jenna, who's in 8th grade right now. And I said, wow, it's happening, and I need to look into this. And then I made a phone call to Orlene Kurla, who is the head of Eagle Forum for California. Eagle Forum is just amazing, and Orlene, head of the entire state, and she had time to pick up her phone and talk to me, which that was even a surprise. And they are having their annual conference in Costa Mesa, May 2nd, so be there. We will be there. We'll have a table.
Where's that conference?
Exciting. The conference is at Calvary Chapel, Costa Mesa. You can sign up on Eventbrite. And there will be a lot of really great people there that will be talking. I believe you spoke at last year's conference for Eagle Forum. And so anyway, there's that, and and then when I talked to Orlene, she said, you gotta know about this guy named Tim Donnelly who's running for governor because he's against Common Core. So that's when I first heard your name. I met you at Gloria Prine's house. Gloria Prine is my local Eagle Forum representative here in Orange County, and it just kind of snowballed from there. Next time I saw you, you were introducing me to Susie and this awesome group of friends that I have just, the silver lining in all of this has been the new friends that I've made. They're just some of the most fun and wonderful people you'd ever want to know.
Wait a minute. Are you saying...
That's the fun part.
Are you doing a commercial for being an activist?
I'm just telling you the truth. I have had fun doing this. I might not like Common Core, but the silver lining is the camaraderie we found, and one of Susie's favorite sayings is, we got to laugh or we'll cry. And that's so true. So we get together and we just get punchy and we laugh and we send each other group texts. And when Duke Pesta comes into town and he'd never been to In-N-Out before, he'll be a guest speaker for us, and then we'll take him to In-N-Out afterwards, and we'll talk until 1 a.m.
Well, and you guys have done a lot more than just build camaraderie and have fun. I mean, you have been that your group put on about Common Core to actually counteract, and you simply stated it was going to be an informational meeting, which it was. Not only did you pack a church with about 300 people, but you had the news media outside. They covered live for almost 5 hours on the hour for the whole news cycle. And I actually interviewed the reporter, a local CBS reporter in Los Angeles, and I asked him, I said, what are you doing here? I mean, I'm happy to have some media, but, what's going on? And he said that there is opposition boiling up across this country, and what you guys have done is impressive. And you have something to be proud of.
You don't know ahead of time. Sometimes nothing comes of it. We'll plan something and you just don't see it, but it's right around the corner. And so sometimes you just have to be patient. And we just kept stepping out. There was this one dad last week who said, you know what? I don't know if anybody else has time to come, but I'm going to go out there with my opt-out signs tomorrow morning, me and my wife and my daughter that is homeschooled. So the 3 of them were going, and I said, well, I can come with you. And I drove a half hour over to where they live, and I held signs with them. And you know what? We encourage each other. And then, I can't drive over there every morning.
Sure.
But they saw us and then other parents. Like, oh, look at that. Oh, there's
Dominica,
4 people out there now. There was 2 or 3, now there's 4. And then we take a picture, and then we post that picture on Facebook and Twitter, and it gives people that visual image. Like, hey,
Dominica,
look at this.
Thank you for coming on the show today. We're out of time, unfortunately. I'll give some of your info after the break, but thank you. God bless.
Okay, thanks, Tim. Godspeed.
Godspeed.
And now, broadcasting from deep behind enemy lines in the occupied territory of the Socialist Republic of California, your host, former California State Assemblyman and Governor candidate, Tim Donnelly.
Welcome back to the Tim Donnelly Show. It's Fearless Friday, and we are going to talk to one of the few in Sacramento that has some courage. You heard her on that clip that we played. Was it, Bethany, was that yesterday? Okay. That shaking your head, that's supposed to tell me something?
Yes, it was played yesterday.
Okay, so we played a clip where Assemblywoman Melendez actually stood up and defended my honor on the floor, which I'm appreciative of. But she's doing more than that. She's defending all Californians from the insanity of Prop 47 and has authored a bill that would undo some of its worst provisions. Assemblywoman Melendez, welcome to the Tim Donnelly Show.
Well, thank you, Tim. It's nice to hear from you again.
Yeah. Well, I'm not there working side by side with you guys anymore, but I'm out here trying to get the word out on anyone that is doing anything worthwhile, and you're on a short list.
Well, thank you. I very much appreciate that.
So, tell us what your bill does and where it is right now.
Okay, so AB 150, which is my bill, would reinstate the penalties for firearms theft to the prior Prop 47 penalties. So it would make it a felony again to be in possession of stolen firearms or to steal firearms. Right now, because of Prop 47, they have reduced it to basically like shoplifting. You know, if you're caught in possession of a stolen gun, which is how most stolen firearms are recovered, by the way, that is a misdemeanor. That's a slap on the hand.
Isn't it a bigger crime to sell a gun illegally or, you know, break the gun laws in some fashion, it would seem?
Right. It is pretty curious that for a state that loves to take people's guns away, that Prop 47 passed because, I mean, if you think about it, if you break into someone's home and steal a gun right now under Prop 47 rules, it would still be a felony if you break into a person's home. But if you if you steal it from a retail store, it's a misdemeanor as long as that gun is valued at less than $950, which covers a lot of guns.
Wow.
So, right. And if you happen upon someone who has a firearm in their possession and that gun is not registered to them, obviously it's stolen, that's a misdemeanor. So imagine how hard it's going to be, on law enforcement trying to combat crime, trying to combat these, types of gun issues when, the criminals know, hey, it's a misdemeanor. What are you going to do to me?
Yeah,
so the bill speaks to, right? I mean, it's ridiculous. So
I think they ought to rename Prop 47 the crime encouragement, bill or proposition. Yeah. This is insanity, and it had a lot of other really stupid provisions that were egregious. But this one, I was particularly interested. I mean, only in California would they decriminalize the theft of a gun when they talk all the time about trying to stamp out crime.
Well, exactly. And all of the bills that come through my public safety committee trying to discourage gun ownership and strip away the Second Amendment rights from Californians, it is kind of ironic that this proposition passed. The bill did pass on the public safety committee with unanimous support, so that's good. It is right now on the suspense file in the Assembly Appropriations Committee. So, as you recall, they don't start letting bills out of appropriations until, May timeframe.
Sure.
So we will see.
Well, if you would keep us apprised of when the hearing is, we can certainly put the word out, because this is one of the most important issues to the audience of this show, which is securing our communities and protecting our fundamental natural rights. And the Second Amendment is real high up on that list. You are
absolutely. I mean,
go ahead.
Well, I was going to say it's we want responsible gun ownership out there. And what we find is, California lawmakers like to bring forward all of this legislation that takes the rights away from me and you and your listeners. And then in the same breath, they are allowing criminals to have more rights than we do by not, sending my bill to the governor and encouraging him to sign it, which is what we hope that they will do, that they'll see the sensibility in this bill and they will let it off the suspense file and they will get it through the Senate and get it to the governor, because it doesn't make any sense at all to allow people who are breaking the law to, have guns and get a slap on the hand for stealing them, while the rest of us are face enormous challenges in just maintaining the few rights that we have left with respect to gun ownership.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost impossible to buy a gun legally. I was trying to buy one for my wife for her birthday, and we had to leave the store, go to AAA, because where we live, we have a P.O. box on our driver's licenses because that is our legal address. But that's not good enough in the state of California. So we have to prove. Now, mind you, I'm a former California state assemblyman, who of some notoriety when it comes to firearms. So you would think
right.
that they would know who I am, but that doesn't pass.
Right.
Not that there should be any special treatment, but for crying out loud,
sure.
It's so hard to buy one, and yet we've decriminalized stealing one, which is just boneheaded. But you are the vice chair, if I'm saying that right, of public safety, which is a very important committee. And by the way, you've done a heck of a job there. I've watched you in action last year and looking forward to it this year. Are there any other bills coming along the pike related to firearms that you think should be on our radar screen?
At the moment, I can't think of any that should be on your radar screen. That doesn't mean that they're not coming, because they do every year. So I will certainly keep you apprised of what's coming down the pike. I haven't seen anything too crazy yet, but, it's early in the year, as we know.
Well, it is. And one of the things that we will do is we will pull clips from some of the hearings and get them on air, because I think, as you know, when you're in that building, you're sort of in a bubble, and the people out here who work for a living and are too busy to sit down and watch Cal Channel. I mean, whoever watched Cal Channel, I've never watched it.
Right.
Either before or since. But we're going to watch it. We're going to keep an eye on it as a service to our listeners, and for both things that they need to fight against as well as things they need to support. And your bill, AB 150, is on our support list, and we will keep track of it and keep touch base with your office and see how it's proceeding.
Well, that's terrific. I appreciate the support. We need all the help you can get, as you know. We have a public safety hearing this coming Tuesday. I've not yet received the bills for review, so there could very well be something in there that you might be interested in. If there is, I will definitely let you know. And in the meantime, just keep plugging away, keep your listeners informed, and encourage them to take part in this process and let their elected officials know exactly how they feel.
If you're just tuning in to the Tim Donnelly Show, shame on you. Where have you been? You just missed Assemblywoman Melissa Melendez, who is fighting for your rights up in Sacramento. She's put forth a good bill. And Melissa, thank you for coming on the show with us today. And we will touch base with you as this legislative session goes forward.
Thank you so much, Tim. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Godspeed. 323-746-TALK. 323-746-TALK is the number to join the conversation, whether you want to talk about Common Core, the disrespect of our flag, or your gun rights. It's Fearless Friday on the Tim Donnelly Show on the Radio Free California Network. More coming up after the break.
Don't you think it's about time you treat yourself or someone you love to something very special? Well, Ozell Jewelers, the finest jewelry store in the high desert, is known throughout the high desert for having the largest variety of fine-looking jewelry and gifts for every special occasion. Ozell custom designs and manufactures their own jewelry, so you'll be able to find exclusive, one-of-a-kind, stunning styles you won't find anywhere else in Southern California. If you're looking for fine jewelry at unbeatable prices, Ozell Jewelers is the place to go. Show appreciation to that special person in your life with something special to cherish forever. Ozell Jewelers, voted best jewelers in the high desert by the Daily Press regularly for years. Ozell Jewelers has been putting smiles on high desert faces for over 30 years. Ozell Jewelers in Rancho Cucamonga, Palm Desert, and Amargosa Road by Red Lobster in Victorville. Ozell Jewelers.
Fearless Friday on Radio Free California Network. Streaming live at timdonnellyshow.com. You know, tonight there is an NRA dinner. It's too late to sign up online. But I don't think they'll turn you away if you show up, especially if you have money with you. And you should. It's at the Victorville Garden Inn, or Hilton Garden Inn, in Victorville, and it starts at 6:00. Get over there. Make sure you support those who are fighting for your freedom. It's not just for your gun rights. And while you're at it, it's never too late to sign up and join and become a member of the Firearms Policy Coalition. Become a member of a group that is one of the most effective fighting forces in the country, let alone in the state. I'm a member. I'm a proud member. And when I get my T-shirt and hat in the mail, we're going to take a picture, and you can check it out, and then you can join. JoinFPC.org. There's also a link at timdonnellyshow.com. And, you know, today's been an interesting day. There's all kinds of bad news everywhere. But I want you to know that in our next segment, yes, that's several minutes hence from here. I'm not quite sure because I have to wait till Bethany tells me that I need to get off the air or get on the air, where, you know, we have this clock that controls every aspect of your life when you're on radio. You don't even realize that every second as it ticks by is so critical. But we watch them. But right now, I'd like to take a call from Matthew, who called us at the end of yesterday's program. Hey, Matthew, welcome back to the Tim Donnelly Show.
Thanks for having me back, Tim. I asked you a question yesterday, and I hope you thought about it, and I'd like to hear your answer, and I want to respond to it. If you think anyone is above the law in this country, and what do you think created the cultural atmosphere that allowed those officers to think they could beat the hell out of somebody on the ground and think they could get away with that?
Well,
do they think they're above the law?
I don't believe anyone's above the law. I believe we are all equal under the law, which is a doctrine of the founding of this country. And when you think about, in particular, police officers, sheriffs, you know, who in the county where I live, that's who is the law. Mm-hmm. When you represent the law, when you swear an oath to uphold the law, you actually have a higher burden to bear than the ordinary citizen, because you have to have more respect for the Constitution, for the civil rights of the citizenry than the average Joe, because you carry the color and the force of law. And so, you know, one of the things that it's a very difficult thing, because on the one hand, we want to like and respect our law enforcement, and I have a lot of friends who are cops, and they are honorable, decent human beings who I would trust with my life. But there are other people who don't hold themselves to that standard, and they have besmirched the badge, and they are guilty of crimes. And if they are, they need to be punished to the full extent of the law. But at the same time, we need to reserve judgment just as we would do in any case, because right now we have a whole new society. We have video everywhere, and that's a good thing, because now we can actually have a witness instead of it be our word against theirs. But the downside of that is that everybody leaps to judgment, and an individual doesn't get a fair trial. So, and I would say that in every case, period.
Mm-hmm. So you think, hello?
Yeah.
Hello? Do you think Internal Affairs would do an objective? I mean, that the Sheriff McMahon ordered an Internal Affairs investigation. And do you think he would be fair? Do you think Internal Affairs would be fair? Knowing, I'm subjected to some problems now with law enforcement. I filed complaints against officers, and the officers say, we protect our own. And Internal Affairs did a horrible investigation, investigated the wrong officer on the wrong day.
Hold on a minute, Matthew. I am not going to be commenting on something that is an ongoing investigation. There's just there has been no result at this point.
No,
but
I'm concerned.
Right. No, I understand. You want to get into some individual case. And
No. I'm concerned if Internal Affairs of these officers will do an investigation. I mean, having them investigate themselves when their stated motto is, we protect our own. I'm skeptical, quite honestly. And if this culture of protecting their own, they're going to be able to know they're going to get away with stuff, concerns me profoundly.
Well,
should I be concerned?
What I think we should do is keep our eye on the situation and see what the result is, because in this case, you have to give an officer that same innocent until proven guilty that we give to those who are accused of other crimes. And I won't be commenting on individual cases on this program or getting into the specifics of something that has not yet been adjudicated. It's just not good policy. But I do appreciate the broader question, and we will always defend the rule of law, because as a constitutional republic, if we undermine the rule of law, if we do not value the rule of law, then we will cease to be a constitutional republic. You're giving me the 30-second sign? You look like you're panicking in there. Did somebody start a fire or something? What's going on?
Oh, nothing, Tim. It's fine.
Oh, okay. She's running out of the room and pulling her hair out, and I'm like, wow, did you not like what I said or something?
No,
it's
you
funny
said was great.
when you're on radio. Oh, you don't have to say that. When you're on radio, look, it's a there's always 50 million things going on, and you read your producer to see what you're supposed to be doing next. But right now, I want you to stay right there. Don't touch that dial. More of the Tim Donnelly Show right after this break.
There's just one place where a team is more than a group of individual agendas. It's a catalyst for demonstrating the potential of the collaborative spirit. There's just one...
You're listening to the Tim Donnelly Show on Radio Free California Network, which streams live at timdonnellyshow.com. And it's, for a Friday, it's kind of action-packed and a little bit exciting. Bethany had her hair on fire a few minutes ago, and I found out what really happened. But that's okay. Computers sometimes fail. A couple things I'm going to do this. I'm switching gears here massively, and and I failed to do something earlier that I was because I had another guest waiting on the line. But earlier we were talking about Common Core. We had Dominica on the line, and I wanted to make sure that people got the information. There is an Eagle Forum conference. It's called Restoring America. So if you liked what you heard, and I got to admit, we have some amazing, but some might consider to be common people, but they're not. They're uncommon. They show such a commitment and dedication and dedicate so much of their time, and they don't hold positions. They don't get paid. They're volunteering for the good of their families and for the good of our state and for the good of our country. And you can meet a whole lot of them on Saturday, May 2nd at the Eagle Forum State Conference, which, by the way, features a friend of mine, Senator Ted Cruz's father, Pastor Rafael Cruz, will be one of the keynote speakers there. And it's from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. at, I'm looking, it's at the Calvary Chapel in Costa Mesa, which is on Fairview Street in Santa Ana. So if you want to connect with the kind of people you've heard on this show, you don't have to go far. And that's a good thing, because in many cases, they might actually be your neighbor. I read to you earlier a little bit of hate mail, and I gave out the number if you want to say something, if you want to react. It can be good or bad, and you don't have to be drunk, even though we're calling it the tip or tipsy line, which is 760-933-8460. Oh, my gosh, you know what would be funny? What if we gave out somebody else's phone number by accident? That would be terrible. You should write that number down for me, Bethany, and actually pin it on the wall in here, because I'm doing it from memory. So I'm going to read you an excerpt from a letter that we received about the show that was very positive. We do a lot of coverage of the drought, and we will continue to do that from a lot of different angles. But this paragraph in this letter summarized pretty much everything I've been trying to say, but I actually think the writer of the letter said it better than me. This so-called drought is such a sham, and really is just a cover-up for our illustrious government to steal more control of our water. The saddest part of the whole thing is that the general public is not well informed on water and its issues. The so-called environmental uses are sucking up an obscene amount of water, and then the urban and ag users are being pitted against each other. And it's sad to think that in a country as great as ours, that we're dealing with a water crisis by asking residents to shut off the water while brushing their teeth, by telling homeowners who have collectively spent hundreds of millions of their hard-earned dollars and countless hours of work to make the landscaping around their homes look nice, that they now need to let it all die and have pride in a brown, desolate yard. Thank you for that clarity from Paul, who wrote in on email. And you can email us. I actually read them. Tim at timdonnellyshow.com. And I also wanted to touch on two other stories that are really positive in nature. And, you know, one of the things I want to do with this show is make certain that we're not always ranting, even though it is fun sometimes to upset lefties and have them write in. I'm sorry. It's just, they get so emotional and start name calling, and that's when you know you've won the debate. But there are some in high positions who have doubted the significance, importance, and the unique nature of America in the world. They have said that we are not an exceptional nation, that we are somehow responsible for all these evils, and almost everything can be traced back to America's imperialistic nature and all this other garbage that they're teaching in our state-run indoctrination institutions. But all I'm going to do is share this headline with you. There are people in the world who believe America is the key to freedom, that we are a leader, and as Ronald Reagan said, we're that shining light on a hill. And Australia has called the world to pray and fast for 7 days for the United States. So there are people all over Australia that are organizing just to pray for our country. And I found that deeply encouraging. You know, and I'm going to share one other story that my dad sent me. And it's not really a timely story, but it's a timeless story. Because it's all about hard work and determination. And there's something afoot with the youth of this country that is encouraging. We always hear people putting down the youth, but one thing that they do, they don't like government very much. That's why they're not joining parties. That's why they're making the fastest growing party in California neither. But maybe we should pay attention to what they're doing. They do these things called crowdfunding. And in this case, somebody did a crowdfunding episode for an individual who was old school. I'm going to read you a little story. He doesn't look athletic, but James Robertson, 56, of Detroit, has a champ's commute. He rides buses partway, but walks about 21 miles in round trips to a factory unless his banker pal offers him a lift. That's every day. Leaving home in Detroit, I didn't know anyone actually lived in Detroit. I used to live near there. James Robertson doesn't look like an endurance athlete. Pudgy of form, shod in heavy work boots, Robertson trudges almost haltingly as he starts another workday. But as he steps out into the cold, Robertson is steeled for an Olympic-sized commute, getting to and from his factory job 23 miles away in Rochester Hills. He'll take a bus partway there and partway home, and he'll walk an astounding 21 miles, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. It's the life that Robertson has led for the last decade, ever since his 1988 Honda Accord quit on him. Now, I'm just going to tell you something. Having lived in Detroit, I'm amazed that he drove a Honda Accord, because when I lived there in the 70s and 80s, if you drove a foreign car, the auto workers were liable to take a sledgehammer to it. So you had to drive an American-made car, but he drove a Honda and it quit, which is usually they're cars that last pretty long. But this is a man who was so dedicated to his job. He said, I can't imagine not working. And he's gone through some really rough parts of town, and he just prays and says, Lord, keep me safe. And one of they asked him, so what gets you through the most dangerous streets and through the cold and gloom of nights and winter winds? And he said, one word, faith. I'm not saying I'm a member of some church, but just before I get home every night, I say, Lord, keep me safe. And the next day, he said, I want to add one thing to what gets me through. He said, that's determination. Now, this man is a poster child for determination. And his bosses at a company meeting actually exhorted the people who live 3 miles away to actually show up at work on time. Here's a man who shows up on time every single day and has this epic commute because he believes in the value of hard work. And a friend of his heard about this and started a GoFundMe for him, and they raised some $200,000. They didn't need that much, and he decided that he's going to buy himself a Lincoln. He's not going to buy himself a fancy car. He's just going to get a plain Lincoln, and he's going to drive to and from work, and I'm sure put the rest in the bank. But, government is not, it's almost never the solution. But when people are inspired by others to act out of their own generosity, that right there, I think, gives us hope for the future. We've got a lot of problems in this country, but I think it's time we start thinking, hey, we're Americans. We can solve these. And I think that's why we are so offended when we see our flag desecrated. We will be talking about that later on in the show. But I wanted to share something positive and encouraging. Hopefully Bethany's not getting all weepy in there. No? Okay. Hey, you are listening to the Tim Donnelly Show, and we'd love to hear from you. 323-746-TALK, 323-746-8255 for those of you who are driving home from work. Stay right there. We got more coming up on the Tim Donnelly Show.
Don't you think it's about time you treat yourself or someone you love to something very special? Well, Ozell Jewelers, the finest jewelry store in the high desert, is known throughout the high desert for having the largest variety of fine-looking jewelry and gifts for every special occasion. Ozell custom designs and manufactures their own jewelry, so you'll be able to find exclusive, one-of-a-kind, stunning styles you won't find anywhere else in Southern California. If you're looking for fine jewelry at unbeatable prices, Ozell Jewelers is the place to go. Show appreciation to that special person in your life with something special to cherish forever. Ozell Jewelers, voted best jewelers in the high desert by the Daily Press regularly for years. Ozell Jewelers has been putting smiles on high desert faces for over 30 years. Ozell Jewelers in Rancho Cucamonga, Palm Desert, and Amargosa Road by Red Lobster in Victorville. Ozell Jewelers.
Hey, if you like what you've been hearing on the Tim Donnelly Show, then support it. If you own a business, we have a tremendous audience, not only on air, but also online. And we've got a great social media presence, and you can participate in all of that by simply picking up the phone and calling 760-244-4444. That's the office line to Bethany, who can schedule you to come in and record your own commercial, or you can send us a script and I'll read it. Whatever you do, you got to act now, because your future customers are my loyal listeners. Well, we are coming down to the final hour, but we're not quite there yet. Here we are on Fearless Friday on the Tim Donnelly Show, heard every day, 3 to 6 p.m. on the Radio Free California Network. Streams live at timdonnellyshow.com. You know, over the last break, I was in contact with someone who reached out to me on Facebook with a situation. And, you know, one thing that we talk a lot about on this show, and we'll be talking about it right after the break, about honoring our veterans. And, you know, if you watch the news today, you're going to see there was some really despicable behavior, disgusting behavior by a number of individuals who are well off enough, who are blessed enough to not only go to college, but join a fraternity and have the resources to go do a spring formal. And they chose to desecrate our flag and insult our veterans. And I'm not someone who served, so I feel a special how do I put it in words? I feel a special duty, a calling to stand up and have their backs, those who have gone into harm's way. I just do. Always have. It's one of the reasons I went down to the border and formed the Minutemen in California, because I didn't want to look into the eyes of those who had served, who came back and said, why did you leave the back door of our country open? But I want to tell you about a situation, and I don't know if you can help or not, but somebody reached out to me. Her father served honorably in the Navy. He passed away and is going to be buried on Monday. And he's going to be buried in the high desert, so pay special attention. Those of you who are listening on our affiliate in the high desert, that's Talk 960. Due to cutbacks or whatever, there's always some political reason why we shortchange our veterans. I don't know all the ins and outs and don't really care, and neither did the daughter of this veteran. But she just found out that her dad is going to be buried without a 21-gun salute. And I just think that's wrong. You know, that's a very special moment for the family that sent a loved one into harm's way. And I know that there are a lot of people listening who have served. I know there's a lot of people listening who might know somebody who could help this family and pull together between now and Monday a 21-gun salute for them. If you're involved in a military organization, or if you know people who could do this, contact our show. You can send me an email at tim@timdonnellyshow.com or call our office number. You'll probably go to voicemail right now, but that's okay, because we will put you in touch with this family. Our phone number is 760-244-4444. That's 760-244-4444. If you've ever wanted to do something that would matter, we need some volunteers. We need some Americans to step up and honor a veteran, a fellow veteran who served honorably in the Navy. It's your chance to step up. More of the Tim Donnelly Show after the break.
And now, broadcasting from deep behind enemy lines in the occupied territory of the Socialist Republic of California, your host, former California State Assemblyman and Governor candidate, Tim Donnelly.
Hey, you know, while we're talking about honoring our veterans and honoring our flag, let's honor our seasoned citizens, those who went before us, those who paved the way, who defended freedom in their time. Hey, if you're a senior citizen, or what I like to call a seasoned citizen, you need to be aware. The High Desert Association of Realtors has your back. They've got a resource fair targeted at you with all kinds of amazing resources. It's on April 28th from 11 to 1. And There will be all kinds of speakers there on all kinds of topics that you might be interested in. Reverse mortgages, fraud protection, property taxes, available local services. Representatives from mortgage companies in the county and a whole bunch of other places, including home health care and transportation, will be present. But you got to RSVP. The program starts at 11. It'll be followed by a Q&A so you can get your questions answered. Call to RSVP 760-244-8841. That's 760-244-8841. Or you can send an email to valerie@vvar.com. Hey, we're going to talk this hour. We opened the show and I mentioned this horrific incident in Florida where the Zeta Beta Tau fraternity members just lost their minds. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's in the water or the beer at these colleges, but I understand on some level people who have issues with the flag. Okay, I get it. It offends you. I understand that some people... I mean, if the flag offends you, I don't know what you're doing at an American university. Maybe you should go to a university someplace where the flag doesn't offend you. But, of course, then you wouldn't have the freedom to say that, or you might wind up disappearing. But for these students in this fraternity, Zeta Beta Tau, to get drunk at a spring formal, they should be enjoying themselves. They don't need to be doing what they did. I can't understand and believe there's no explanation for this type of behavior. But they insulted, disrespected, threw beer on veterans who were down there for a retreat. Here they're finally having a little R&R. They ripped an American flag out of the ground. They urinated on it. I can't even read any more of the story because it gets me so frustrated and upset that anybody would do that. And it seems to be centered around college campuses. So I asked a couple of friends of mine to come on the show and talk about what's happening. And they happen to be Richard Phan, who is the state chair for the Young Americans for Liberty, and he's formerly the chapter president at UCI. Richard, welcome to the Tim Donnelly Show.
Well, thank you for having me, Tim Donnelly.
It's great to have someone from my alma mater. And I'm also going to bring on Robert Petrosian, hope I pronounced that right, who is currently the president of the of the College Republicans at UCI. Did I get your name right, Robert?
Petrosian, but close enough.
Petrosian, okay. Well, what'd you put that extra Y in there for? you threw me off.
YAN, that's the Armenian suffix for surnames.
Well, it is indeed a special day for you as an Armenian.
Yeah.
And a day of remembrance.
100th anniversary.
100 years.
Armenian genocide.
Yes, 100 years of the unspeakable genocide. And I want you to know that I am with you on remembering that, and I'm sure all of the listeners of the Tim Donnelly Show join you in that.
Thank you for your solidarity.
Yeah. So let's talk about this. What's going on? There seems to be an epidemic on our campuses of disrespect for the flag. And I don't want to say it started at my alma mater. I'm a little embarrassed here. But it certainly hit the national airwaves. Guys, what's happening? Richard, what's the deal?
Yeah, well, like we said earlier, I don't think it's actually in the beer nor in the water. It's in the classroom. There's so many leftist professors spewing anti-America hate, saying that nationalistic and all that good, bad stuff that they would claim. But, I mean, what they lack to entertain and actually understand is that America has actually protected liberties. The flag stands and flies for liberty, freedom, and all those rights, especially going against the flag that it protects. So, fortunately, having some professors at classes, I noticed they definitely do spew this rhetoric, and it definitely has this sort of anti-American tone. And unfortunately, apparently, they get influenced by these professors.
So, Robert, I want to know, you're the president of the Republicans there on campus, college Republicans. Yes. Which, by the way, just a little historical footnote. I went to my one and only college Republican meeting at UCI in the back of one of those huge auditoriums. I don't remember what it was called, but William F. Buckley came to speak. And
I actually watched some of those videos, and that was really some good stuff that he was talking about. Definitely something I have to watch even more of.
Yeah, well, here's the funny thing. I took my then girlfriend, now wife, Rowena, and I was so brainwashed by the professors about the environment that I thought the Republicans hated the environment that I was just seething the whole time. And all I wanted to do was ask a question about what they were going to do to protect the environment. But I chickened out. It's kind of funny that I'm so outspoken now, but I was terrified and I was so mad. So you won't see me on that old videotape asking my question. But here's the irony. I spoke at Sacramento State, I don't know, close to a year ago when I was running for governor. And a young man asked me virtually the same question. And it was kind of cool to be on the other side of the equation. But here's my question for you, Robert. What is the feeling among the students at large? I mean, do most of them hate the flag? Do most of them at UCI in particular support taking it out of that student activities building?
Well, thankfully, the good news is that most of the students were overwhelmingly against it. And let me just tell you, Thursday night was when I first heard about the flag ban. And 2 days later, on Saturday, there was so much student pressure that the proposition got vetoed by the executive council in the SUCI. So, and during the whole week afterwards, there were a lot of students with patriotic gear, American flags. And there was a rally that week, and it was good to see students from different backgrounds rallying behind our flag.
I want to agree with you, and I'm going to interrupt you for a minute because I want to say something. I read that there was an assemblywoman, I think she was a Republican, who was going to run a bill to
Janet Nguyen, I think, right?
Right.
Oh, Janet Nguyen, yeah.
Yeah, to ban flag bans in state buildings. Even though I'm a Republican, sort of a reluctant Republican, did I say that right?
The wrong one.
Yeah, I sound like I'm slurring my word there. Let me say that again. I'm a reluctant Republican because of how my party acts right now and in a lot of boneheaded things it's doing. But I hate the idea of another law. I love the idea of what you just said, which is the students rose up from all backgrounds and made their voice heard and forced their student government to represent them. And I think that's much more powerful than having somebody get on a white horse and say, hey, I'm going to pass another law. If there's one thing we don't need in California, it's another law.
Exactly. Obviously, we wish we wouldn't have to let it go that far, but I could definitely see where Janet Nguyen is coming from, and I can I could understand why that's needed. I don't really think that the law should be. I don't think we need the law, but I know something's got to be done because this is ridiculous. The problem is that the people who proposed the law, the flag ban at UCI, they're not necessarily good representatives for all the students. They're sort of in their own student government and cross-cultural center bubble where they only interact amongst themselves.
Kind of like a microcosm of our state.
Pretty much.
Hey, can you guys stay over over the break and take questions from callers?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Hey, if you're just tuning in to the Tim Donnelly Show, it's not too late. You didn't miss it. We still got 3 segments left, and I want to know what you think about this. So if you have any thoughts on the flag incident here, the one in, what was it, Georgia? The South. I don't know what's going on in the South. And then in Florida, give us a call, 323-746-TALK, 323-746-8255.
Don't you think it's about time you treat yourself or someone you love to something very special? Well, Ozell Jewelers, the finest jewelry store in the high desert, is known throughout the high desert for having the largest variety of fine-looking jewelry and gifts for every special occasion. Ozell custom designs and manufactures their own jewelry, so you'll be able to find exclusive, one-of-a-kind, stunning styles you won't find anywhere else in Southern California. If you're looking for fine jewelry at unbeatable prices, Ozell Jewelers is the place to go. Show appreciation to that special person in your life with something special to cherish forever. Ozell Jewelers, voted best jewelers in the high desert by the Daily Press regularly for years. Ozell Jewelers has been putting smiles on high desert faces for over 30 years. Ozell Jewelers in Rancho Cucamonga, Palm Desert, and Amargosa Road by Red Lobster in Victorville. Ozell Jewelers.
I can feel it coming in the air.
Wow, that is such a great tune. And what a way to welcome us back to this important segment where we're talking about our flag. We've got Richard Phan, who is the California State Chair. Did I get that right, Richard?
Yep, correct.
Okay,
for Young Americans for Liberty.
Young Americans for Liberty. You guys have a conference tomorrow.
Correct, with actor Vince Vaughn.
Yeah, you're going to have actor Vince Vaughn there. You're going to have like a grassroots boot camp. Hey, if you've ever thought about going out and doing anything or being involved in politics, I recommend you go. They'll make it easy for you. Get out there. I'm going to get out there late in the day because I have to actually go to the border and do a eulogy for a friend of mine who was in the Battle of the Bulge, who served our country in its hour of need, and I agreed to do a eulogy for him. So I'm going to be down there for part of the day, and then I'm going to be heading over to UCLA, and hopefully I'll see you there. We also have Robert Pedrosian on, who is the current UCI College Republican president, and we were talking about the flag, and we're joined by Mike, who is a sergeant from California. He was in military intelligence, deployed 4 times. First of all, Mike, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
And welcome to the Tim Donnelly Show.
Alex, I really have a serious problem with people that touch the American flag because, it's when you go to my house, you drive by, every other week you'll see a different flag. I'm up in Wrightwood where, like right now, I'm sitting here looking at 5 flags flying. It's a beautiful city to live in because they have the flag everywhere. And when you go by my house, right now you'll see the Star Spangled Banner flying. Next week you'll see the Betsy Ross. Then you'll see the Grand Union. there's a reason why we have an American history that we have. And these people that think that they can, take it out on the flag, that flag, that blood, the red is what it's for. It stands for the people that have given their lives and done things in this country to make sure that they can have a right of freedom. And, all these people that think that, we go over there and we fight for their rights to do these stupid things like desecrate our flag, that has nothing to do with anything we think about when we go out there. Because that's not our freedom to go out there and destroy something that should be sacred in this country. And I don't care where you're at. I love going into stores out here, especially in Wrightwood. I mean, flags in every store. Flags almost in every yard. It's a place where you can go and you can actually see how much people love this country and respect it. And it's just sad when you hear about these little stupid college people that want to go out there and these, idiot people in California that run for office that think the flag should be taken away. And if they don't like the flag, go away, okay? Because we wear it when we go into combat. And when we come home, they give us one here, they give us one there, they bury us with one. And that's the greatest thing in the world for us is to have that flag. And we will protect it. And, the law might say that we can't do anything if you burn it, but it does say that if you cause a riot, you can go to jail, and I guarantee you burn it around me, any other vets, it's going to be a riot, and you will go to jail.
Mike, thank you for calling in. I'm just getting chills listening to you because you are the backbone of this country, and you put your life on the line so that we could live in freedom and so that we could enjoy the fruits of your sacrifice. And
I had two friends get buried, so like I said, it's all the way back from 1775. I'm an historian, and up until tomorrow, the next day, and the rest of the times that we have this country, people need to respect everybody who's ever fought and served. And the best way to do that is to stand up when a flag walks by, put a flag out when you're supposed to, and just show respect to the flag, because that shows respect to all who have given.
Absolutely. Hey, did you hear the segment earlier when I was talking about there's a Navy veteran who's going to be buried without any salute? Don't know if you know anybody, and it's coming up quick. It's Monday, but we're looking for some people that would actually, stand and give him send him off with honor.
Yeah, I just moved here because, I just bought 2 flagpoles when I heard your comment about this, so it really kind of got to me because everybody deserves it. But tomorrow I'm going to be going down and trying to check into the VFW that they have out here in Phelan. And I'll bring it up out there and see what's going on.
Okay.
Because everybody deserves to be buried with honor.
You're welcome to just reach back to the show on the email, Tim at Tim Donnelly Show, or call back in. Because if I can connect this family to some volunteers, I just think it would be a cool thing that, we could do to honor him.
Right. If it wasn't for the laws we have with guns, it would be real easy to go out there and give this guy what he deserves.
I know. I was wondering about that because, I'd like to go do it, but I'm not a veteran, so I don't know that mine would count. Oh.
Right. Well, 6 other guys want to get together, and we can buy some things and go out there and do it anyways. I don't care. They want to put me in jail, that's fine.
All right.
It's always worth it to pay your respect.
Hey, we are we're out of time for this segment, but could you guys hold over to the next break to respond?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tim Donnelly Show continues. Welcome back. We're on the home stretch here on the Tim Donnelly Show, heard 3 to 6 every day on the Radio Free California Network, which streams live at timdonnellyshow.com. And before the break, we were talking with 2 patriotic individuals who are fighting the good fight on the college campuses. Richard Fan and Robert, welcome back to the show.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
So I don't know if you guys got the kind of chills that I got listening to Mike. I mean, his passionate defense of our flag was just inspiring.
Yeah, I'm definitely inspired by his service, and I would love to thank him or thank him for his service and everything.
I'm thankful for everything he's done to our country. Definitely glad to hear that there's so many people like him who sacrificed everything to protect us.
Yeah, so where do we go from here with changing the culture on our campuses? And what I mean by that is I don't expect everybody to wave the flag and walk around and maybe be as patriotic as I feel. It's an individual liberty. But what you were referring to, Richard, in the first segment you were on, this leftist push to indoctrinate our youth, and they do it in almost every class now. It used to only be in the ethnic studies courses or the alternative versions of history, and they had all these clever names for them back when I was going to school. I don't know what's going on there now. What do they call it now?
Well, they like to call themselves social scientists, but I like to call it social studies because they're not practicing real science at all.
Or is it socialism studies?
Pretty much. But the thing is that it isn't surprising because when the flag ban happened at UCI, there was a petition being circulated on campus around to support the students to ban the flag, and unsurprisingly, there was professors on that list from campuses throughout all over California, not just UCI, supporting those students. So it definitely is apparent to show that there is that leftist bias. I mean, you have so many of them contributing to, say, President Obama's campaign and or Harvard even at all. So this isn't surprising. And here at Young Americans for Liberty or College Republicans, we're here to change that culture and see and educate them and mobilize them to fight for liberty and freedom.
I think the UC system was actually the biggest donor to Obama's 2012 campaign, wasn't it?
I heard
they were
that,
one of their biggest donors.
And I want to say, I don't think they sent me any money when I was running for governor. Is that a shock or what? Come on. I went to UC Irvine.
To support a fellow alumnus.
Yeah, but you know what? That's okay because a whole lot of other individuals did support me. I wound up meeting guys like you, and there's an excitement and an energy. And what I like about what both of you said, you didn't say, hey, let's pass another law. You said, let's change the hearts and minds. That means you want to persuade, not coerce. And the left loves to use the government to coerce others to do its bidding. And whether they're wanting the government to steal from you so that they can have something for free, or whether they just want to control your activity because they're offended by it. Either way, it's wrong.
To put it bluntly,
their word is triggered.
If you need to force someone to accept your ideas, and to put it bluntly, your idea sucks.
Refreshing clarity of thought here on the Tim Donnelly Show. What do you think of that, Bethany?
I love it.
Oh, well, I guess a couple of college guys, they hear a girl talk and then they're
and they went away. What happened?
No, they got nervous. Hey, so are both of you guys going down to that conference tomorrow?
Oh yeah, I'll be there.
Awesome.
Yeah, definitely, I'll be there too.
Well, good. Then I will definitely look forward to making your acquaintance again. And is there anything that you would like to say to the listeners of the Tim Donnelly Show, many of whom are college students across the state who listen online? Any thoughts you want to leave with them so that you can maybe let them know, that they're not alone, that, you're fighting the good fight?
Yeah, well, my one word of advice is probably just to join Yale or college Republicans and follow the advice of Andrew Breitbart or James O'Keefe. Follow the left, what they do, show what is right, what is actually sensible, which is liberty and freedom. You need to be there out online, out in the streets, outreaching communities to show that we actually care for you and we actually do have a winning message, and that is for us to be left alone.
So you want hands off? You want the government to keep its hands off you with the original concept of laissez-faire? Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you, Robert?
My advice would be don't be intimidated by whatever the far left at college would say. Just put out your own messages, and you'll be surprised by how many people will come to your support or feel the same way and join your cause. And there are even some professors that were surprisingly supportive, and they knew that I was a college Republican, and whether some of them didn't even agree with what I had to say, but they respected that I was providing an opposing voice. So do not be intimidated by the left-wing culture.
I think that's great advice, both of you, and I think I would add join a group, or reiterate. I guess I'm not adding it, but reiterate. Then you won't feel like you're alone. And look, even if you join the group and you don't agree with everything that they stand for, that's okay. You know, we tend to be a pretty big party, regardless of what the media says. When I say party, when I say we, I want to be very clear. I'm not talking about the Republican Party. I'm talking about the push for liberty and freedom. I'm talking about being an American, and this idea that there's no tolerance for an opposing viewpoint. And you guys know that I carried a number of bills and fought on a number of issues that the left is so extremist on that they literally tried to make me feel as if, and they stated outright, you have the wrong viewpoint. There is no wrong viewpoint.
Yeah.
And, you know, of all places, universities and college campuses ought to be bastions of great diversity of ideas.
Yeah.
Intellectual diversity, not subjective diversity.
Exactly.
They're focusing on the wrong one.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, even then, you always have to be making allies, too. I mean, as Reagan said, my 20% enemy is my 80% ally. I mean, you can't make perfect the enemy of the good. You still have to grow America, freedom, liberty, and all that good stuff.
I agree, and I think where the hope lies there is standing up for freedom and standing against government that wants to control you, a government that right now wants to blame you for the drought. They want to limit how long you can take a shower, when the real problem is they didn't build the infrastructure they should have built to handle
the train.
Yeah, and they were going to build some stupid train to nowhere with money we don't have and steal people's land to do it. Well, I got him speechless. I pulled a Bethany. Hey, guys, thank you for coming on the Tim Donnelly Show. Have a great weekend.
You for having us.
We'll see you out there.
Thank you for having us.
It's my pleasure. If you're just listening to this and you aren't aware of the conference, it's over at UCLA. Just look up YAL.org. That's Young Americans for Liberty, or Young Americans for Liberty Conference in Los Angeles. And come on out and meet these young fellas. You'll find all kinds of people of all ages. I know I keep emphasizing the young, but that's because it's exciting to see youth actually taking a stand for liberty. But you know what? It shouldn't surprise us because they were raised right. And we do live in the greatest country in the world. And, man, we need to figure out a way to cut that clip of Mike from earlier and replay that, because it just gave me chills talking about our flag. Hey, final segment of the Tim Donnelly Show is coming up after this break. 323-746-TALK, 323-746-8255 if you want to weigh in. Otherwise, I'll just take us to the finish line.
Don't you think it's about time you treat yourself or someone you love to something very special? Well, Ozell Jewelers, the finest jewelry store in the high desert, is known throughout the high desert for having the largest variety of fine-looking jewelry and gifts for every special occasion. Ozell custom designs and manufactures their own jewelry, so you'll be able to find exclusive, one-of-a-kind, stunning styles you won't find anywhere else in Southern California. If you're looking for fine jewelry at unbeatable prices, Ozell Jewelers is the place to go. Show appreciation to that special person in your life with something special to cherish forever. Ozell Jewelers, voted best jewelers in the high desert by the Daily Press regularly for years. Ozell Jewelers has been putting smiles on high desert faces for over 30 years. Ozell Jewelers in Rancho Cucamonga, Palm Desert, and Amargosa Road by Red Lobster in Victorville. Ozell Jewelers.
I don't know how it was for you, but this week has just flown by, and we're just having way too much fun. I appreciate all of you who are listening and calling in. I was at an event last night, spoke to a group up in my hometown, and there's a very impressive young man there who is an Eagle Scout who is pulling together all of his, actually, I believe it's his final project. But this kid was really impressive, and I'll tell you why. And I'm hoping that his dad will email me a link to his site, because, I'm not going to advertise for everybody and everybody's little project, but this ties into what we were just talking about, and I heard it with my own ears from the mouth of a boy. I believe he was 15 years old, and he had worked on a project and had identified a site, and he wanted to put three flagpoles. I mean, huge, a nice monument. And it was big and it was bold and it honored our country and our veterans, and it was just really impressive. And the place where he was going to put it said, well, we don't want to obscure the trees. Well, if you've been to my hometown of Twin Peaks, we have trees, and more trees. The only thing we might have more of in that little town of 1,500 is guns. But I'll tell you right now, this kid has some moxie, because he said, hey, forget it. I'm not going to put up a little tiny stump. I want something that honors our flag and our country and those who served it. So I don't have all the details and particulars of his project in front of me, because I misplaced the paperwork. I will get it next week. I will talk about it. You will want to be involved and maybe contribute to this worthy effort. When young people are doing something, it's important that we support them and that we get involved when they've really shown a great deal of enthusiasm and hard work and vision. For a kid 15 years old, I was really impressed. Raised well. Anyway, we'll get to that next week. But I also want to let you know about a couple of other stories we're going to be talking about next week, so that you'll be sure to tune in. I don't know what day we'll talk about them, but a couple of people sent me a really strange story about two individuals who were apprehended and stopped by the Minutemen in Texas, and they were bringing, I believe it was 1,300 pounds of cocaine, in their vehicle, and they had CIA identifications. Now, I'm not saying right now that they are in the CIA. I'm saying they had CIA identifications. The FBI and the DHS are looking into this. It's funny. They can spy on us and they know everything that we're doing, but somebody crosses the border with a CIA badge and they're going to have to investigate to figure it out. Look, we need to get answers on that. That is an ongoing story, and we will cover that and bring you whatever we're able to find. I have a number of sources, both in Texas and Arizona, involved with the Minutemen and with the Border Patrol. We'll see if we can, dig out some, I'm looking for the right word. It's just not coming. But we'll ferret out some facts. How's that? And there's another story that, if you want to send me some information on or pictures or whatever, I'd be very interested. But I keep hearing about this Jade 15, these military exercises on our soil. And as big a supporter I am of the military, I'm not a big supporter of this regime that is right now in charge in Washington, D.C. I think that's not news to anyone. But I want to get your take on it. If it's going on in your town, it's going on all over the Southwest, I'd just like to hear your opinion of it, or if you've taken any pictures or video, or does it make you uncomfortable? Do you have concerns? Obviously, we understand the doctrine of posse comitatus, and I'm sure that every one of those soldiers also knows and respects that. But how does that make you feel? I mean, what are your thoughts, concerns? Hey, the Tim Donnelly Show is not a one-man band. Couldn't do this without Bethany Nosko, my producer, the Noskinator, and Cassie Cassidy, my intrepid guest booker, who also updates our website, and John and Sean and Richard. You guys are such a godsend. We live in a great country. I am proud and grateful to be an American. God bless you and Godspeed.